Hey guys, Nerf Nerd here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I modified my Stampede. So this is already modified, but I'll be showing you what I've done to it and how you can do it yourself. So to do this, you're going to need the electrical tape, either electrical tape or heat shrink. So just depends on which one you want to use. Positive and negative wire, solder and soldering iron. Wire cutters, screwdriver, the hacksaw, that's just what I use to take off the front bit of the front muzzle for better performance. Upgraded spring, the O-ring, and just some grease. And you can either choose between 3S LiPo and the connector, so you need the female XD60 connector. Or you can do what I did, which is basically cut out a battery tray and put in 3 of these, which are, if the camera focuses, well, I know the camera's not focusing for some reason, but they're 3.7 volt, 800 milliamp lithium AA batteries. Oh, there we go, it's decided to focus. So you need 3 of them, which you can just buy from your local tech shop. And that is all you need to do it. So I'll just open it up and show you what's been done to it. So obviously with mine, I've just got the battery tray with the 3 lithium batteries, which these pretty much work out to a 3S LiPo. It just depends on which one you want to do. You could also just put a 2S LiPo, or you don't have to put, you could just put 2 of these in a dummy battery. It depends really on how fast you want to run it, but personally I like running it as fast as it can go, which I found that's about as fast as it can go with actually working until I start changing out a whole bunch of things on it. Because this is still using all of the plastic gears and stock internals and stuff like that, apart from the spring and a couple of springs I have upgraded. I forgot to mention that. So on one of the return springs, so in here you can't really see it, but it basically pulls back a slide. So that broke on me. I'm not sure if it's just that it's old or if it's the higher power, but I pretty much just changed it out with a spring that's on a strong arm. So if you have a strong arm, you can get a spring. Perfect replacement for that, a spring for that. And I also just replaced a spring up here that basically pushes the dart into the plunger tube. You'll see it when I open it up with a slightly stronger spring, but you don't really need a specific spring, just anything roughly the same size that I'll show you when I get it out. So without further ado, I'm just going to start taking this apart, and then I'll show you the insides. So once you've undone all the screws, we can just pretty much crack it open like this. So yours will be connected here. So this is a full wire rework, so you're better off just cutting. There'll be wires here that are connecting it, so you're better off just snipping the wires here. That won't affect anything. All it will do is it will stop the safety from working. So if you want to leave it in, you just have to work around it, but if you're not really bothered, just cut it and then you can flip the shell around. Alright, so you can see mine probably looks very different from yours. So the first thing I would recommend doing is just removing all the safeties, or removing all the wiring in general, because you're going to fully rewire it. If you want to, I have a previous video on how to do this without any wiring, but this is how to do it fully wired, so fully undoing it all. So what you can do, the first thing is there will be a plate on here, a plastic little, I don't know what the right word to call it this is, piece of plastic on top of this that will have a safety underneath it, so you can remove that and pretty much just unscrew the safety out and snip off the wires. So that's the first thing you can do there, is take that safety off there. And then there will also be another safety here, which you can remove as well. So, and you can also take the jam through out. So there's like 3 or 4 safeties on this. So there's a safety here, there's a safety that sits over here, and there's also a safety underneath this. So that one's fairly simple to take out. Just unscrew it, take off the plate. You might have to take this one off as well, and unscrew the safety out and just snip it off and then put it back on. Really all you need is just this one piece here, which is just three screws, and make sure that spring's left in there. Oh, and you might have to unscrew that as well, but just make sure you put that screw back in. That's for the mag release, that screw down there. So once you do that, you can come back. So now what you want to do is take this out. So I'll just unscrew these 3 bolts, and then this will come out. You could also take out your barrel. Obviously mine's cut shorter. Take out your barrel, take that out, and then we'll unscrew these 3 bolts here. So once we've unscrewed those 3, so once you've unscrewed that, you can see there's this bit here. So this is the spring I was talking about to replace. So I'll just take it out and show you. So you can pretty much just lift this up, and you'll see this will come out, and I'll just try and push that in there, one-handed. There we go. Okay, so you can see that's in there like that. So I'll just take it out to show you, but we'll take this piece out and we'll also take this out. But basically what this will do is undoing all of this will give you access to the safety, which you can then cut and then take out. So, all right, what we'll do is just grab the spring, put the spring in the right spot because it's come out a bit on me. So all I did is just remove this, which gives us access to this. So I can just lift that up there. And then you can see, so your spring will not look like this. This is a lot beefier spring. So this will just give it a bit more force, because obviously we're shooting this much faster than it was intended. It will help this to come up quicker than it was supposed to. So it'll give you access to that one, which you can take out. And you'll probably need to undo all of these and just take that out. So once you take those two out, I've also cut it off here. So that's really up to your discretion whether or not you want to cut it and cut down the barrel and put that back in, but I like the look of it, but it's up to you. So you can take that out, which is really just a few bolts. It's pretty simple, and let you get to the safeties. So yeah, basically you just replace this spring here, so shove it down. It is a bit finicky to put in, and I can't really do it with one hand, but it's pretty self-explanatory where it goes. It goes like this here, just in there like that, you can see, right, and the spring will be down there. And then this piece here just sits like that over the top of it to hold it in place so it doesn't fall out, just like that, see? So I'll just do that because I need both hands. Alright, so that's in there, you can see, like that. So that will just be able to return much quicker than the normal spring, because the normal one was way too weak to do that. So the other spring you want to replace, because, well, I mean, you could leave it, but it might break in the future, you might have to change it, is this down here. So we'll undo these two screws here, and we can just lift this up, and underneath here, that is the spring you need to replace with the strong arm. So on the strong arm, when you rack the slide, there's a return spring. So you want to grab the return spring from the strong arm and use that one. So it will just mean it can, obviously in the name, return much quicker, because this is supposed to go back and forward, so it's much stronger, and it's got to do with that. So also make sure it's in that orientation, because if you got it the wrong way around, it won't work. So make sure it's in that orientation there, and make sure you replace that spring. So that's pretty self-explanatory. You just lift it up and put on the new spring. And that's come out again on me. That's nice. Thanks for that. All right, we'll just put that back in properly. That's just because I took the plate off, so it's come out. So I'll just chuck that all back on. All right, and once that's back on, we can also chuck this back on. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So there's a little hole here. That's where this goes in. Basically, that just pushes the dart into the plunger tube. So lift that up there. And I'm going to do one-handed. Basically, that just goes inside there, and then it sits on. So just like that, and then we can line it up with the holes. There we go, boom. So then we'll just put those 3 screws in. So what you should have done now is you should have no safeties left. So the safety for the trigger, which is on here, that should be cut off and removed from here. That other safety in the mag well, near the mag well, should be removed. You should also have removed this safety by the mag well, and the safety for the jam door up here once that's off. So once that's all done, and all the wires are cut out, just before I get to the wiring, I'll show you what I did with the plunger tube, and then I'll move on to where it needs to be wired and whatnot to the battery. So to get to the plunger tube, we just take off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then also take off these 2 as well. So once you take that piece off and that piece off, alright, so we'll just lift this off here. There we go. You can see the plunger tube, and we can just lift this piece off here. And pretty much the whole assembly will just, should just pop out. Press that up there. There we go, like that. So this is what makes the darts go pop, pretty much. So it's all inside the tube here. So all you need to do is, there's just 2 screws back there. So you need to undo those, and then I'll just show you inside. So once that's done, you can just pop it open, and it's just important to remember the orientation. So this little tab, that's going to be facing the gears at all time, facing down, and this one will be facing up. So it's important that you don't forget that. So you can slide that off. And so obviously I've got an upgraded spring in mind, because the spring that comes out in this is really weak. That's why it only shoots like 50 feet per second. So you can pull this one out. And I bought my spring and the O-ring and the grease from Black Tactical, so I got it from there. Alright, or I mean you can just do a general eBay search and look one up. So you can see I've greased in there, and I haven't actually removed the air restrictor in mine because I'm always going to be, because first of all I find normally from what I've seen from other people it doesn't give you that much extra power, and it will also, over time, it's going to wear out the plunger tube really bad because it's got no safety, like no stopper, no rubber, no nothing on the end. And with no air restrictor, being full automatic at that rate of fire, I'm always going to fire a couple of shots at the end of a mag that are dry, and it's probably going to break the gun eventually. So I would definitely recommend to keep that in. So pretty much you just slide your new spring on and put the new O-ring on. Even though I put the new O-ring on, it was quite loose. So what I actually did is I put some electrical tape at the back of it. So you really got to be careful, because if you don't put it on right, it'll actually slow your FPS down. So you want to cut a really small strip of electrical tape and make sure it stays on there just to kind of push it out a bit, so it gives you a really, really airtight seal. That's kind of a hack that I use, but just make sure it's not over the edges of that plastic at all, it's only underneath. So, yep, so once you do that, you can just slide it back in. And I need 2 hands for this bit, but you can hear what a good seal I have just with the new O-ring and the electrical tape. Just listen. So that's a very, very good seal. So with that all done up, it should look like this. So that will be facing down, that will be facing up. Also be careful not to strip your screws like I did. So I had to put a bigger screw on one side. Luckily it's actually held in there. And that's pretty much what generates your power. It'll pull that back and it will shoot like that. So once that's done, you can slide that back in there, hook that in there, and just kind of wrestle it around until it gets back in there with that stupid tab. Really, I probably should cut that off. I don't even need that in there. And then it will nestle back into here. So once you get this bit sorted out, so put this piece here. If I can do it with one hand, there we go, like that. And then pull that back, and that will sit in there. And then you can put, well, ignore that spring, put that back on there, do those 2 screws up, and that will all be sitting in there. That will be facing down, that'll be facing up, rail will be down here, and then you can put your plate back on there with the screws there. So once that's all put back together, that's all done with. So that's all the safeties dealt with, and the spring, the plunger tube. So now all we have to work with is the wiring. So if you've cut off all the wiring, you can just follow mine. So I'm obviously not going to solder in this video. I'm going to assume you know how to solder. So you just get your wire and your soldering iron. And so this is the red one. So you see there's a switch here. So basically underneath here, it's pressing down, if you can see, a little switch when you press the trigger. So it's going to this one here. So the black wire will just go from here all the way to the far top, all the way on the top. Negative is the very top one here to the top. And then you're going to solder another negative on that same one, because there's 3 points on that same top one. And you're just going to loop it down to this one right here. If you keep these in, you loop it down to this one here, solder it on here, and then from there I've soldered my negative wire. And I've soldered it then to this end of the battery tray here, like that. If you're doing the 3S LiPo, don't worry about that, I'll just show you later. So with the positive, then you solder the positive here to the middle, so positive to this one to the middle here, and then you solder again all the way on the bottom, a positive, and that just loops down here to the positive end back here, and then there's your positive wire. So, and then you loop that to there. If you're doing the battery tray one, that's the orientation like that on opposite ends. As you can see, if you're doing the LiPo, you pretty much just solder positive to negative on the LiPo, so I'll show you. So I've actually got the wrong connection. It will be the other way around. So this is the male XC60, but it should be other way around, but principle is still the same. The positive on this one will be the square, or the flat surface, and the negative will be the pointy one. So when you solder, you can solder it like that, and then just make sure it's as you can see there, and then you can hook up your LiPo, and it's got plenty of space to fit a LiPo. So you can either do 2S or 3S. And once you've done that, it's pretty much done, unless you want to do metal gears, which I'm not going to get into for this video because I feel like I don't really need to. Once that's all done and all put together and all snipped off, you can pretty much just cut down your nose if you want, and then put the jam door back in, make sure everything's lined up the right way, and everything's all good, and make sure to test it before you put it back together. So hook your battery up and pull the trigger, hold it down to make sure everything stays together. And then it's up to you, I mean, whether or not you want to leave your jam door in, but I probably would, because if you stick your finger in there accidentally while this is turned on, it's probably going to break your finger. So I'd recommend to probably leave the jam door in there, like that. And then you can chuck the shell back on it. And then it should be as simple as just screwing everything up. And yeah, I'll show you when it's all screwed up. Oh, and I forgot to say, it's also worth noting, with the mag release, when you put it back together, make sure these are both oriented the right way, because one of these sides, this is pressed forward by a spring, and the other side it's not. So when you do it, just make sure that both of these tabs are pressed as far this way as you can go when you screw it up, because otherwise it'll be out of alignment and the mag release won't work. Alright, and once it's all back together, you can either put in your batteries or hook up your LiPo. I did also forget to mention that it's a good idea when you put this battery tray back to kind of just cut out this bit here to give it room for the wires to go through. So that would be a good idea to do as well, and to just cut down this middle bit here, and that gives you more room to fit it. It's also a good idea to probably just put some tape here to cover the metal connections so nothing touches it. Alright, and once it's all back together, and there you go. That is a fully modded Stampede. So I really hope you enjoyed, guys. This was actually a lot of fun for me. After the initial video I made, I thought this thing was fantastic, and then I actually fully rewired it, and it's now on a whole nother level. So even though I own guns that shoot better than this, it's probably my favourite one just because of how cool it is, you know, being an AEG, like a air-propelled electric gun. It's just, and it's also a classic, so it's nice to bring up an old blaster that you could use like somewhat competitively today. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.